A very good evening. It's Sunday, the 2nd of April 2017, and welcome to a brand new edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our News First studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Mudslide in Colombia claims 254 lives, 200 people missing. Local government elections could be held this year. President Maithripala Sirisena informs SLFP Youth Front.
විශ්වාස කරන බොහෝ විට මේ වර්ෂය තුල අපිට පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණය තබන්නට පුළුවන්කම ලැබේවි කියලා.
Former president speaks on toppling the government.
අපි ඊළඟ අවුරුද්දේ කරනවා. පොය දෙකයි වෙසක් පොය.
6 Indian nationals apprehended by the Navy while attempting to smuggle over 13 kilograms of brown sugar. Police arrest motorist and seize luxury vehicle involved in a fatal hit and run. A statement from Minister Mano Ganeshan on Tamil prisoners.
Starting off with a story making international headlines, Colombia's security forces say they are searching for hundreds of missing people after heavy mudslides left at least 254 dead. Heavy rain flooded the city of Mocoa in the southwest, with mudslides and rocks burying whole neighborhoods and forcing residents to flee their homes.
Victims dug through the rubble in search of loved ones and precious possessions. Heavy rains caused several rivers to overflow, pushing sediment and rocks onto buildings and roads in the capital of the southwestern Putumayo province and trapping cars in several feet of mud.
Días que no la había visto, no sé de ella. Solo sé que el marido la cogió de la mano y no la pudo sostener más y se la llevó la corriente.
Un bebé nomás que desapareció, pero esto pues así como los ve. Un bebecito, pero no aparece por ningún lado.
Todo, madre, todo. Escasitamente alcancé a sacar los dos niños, de resto no quedó uno. Así como ustedes ven ahí, piedra y arena.
The army said in a statement that 254 people were killed, 400 people had been injured, and 200 were missing. Video footage from the city showed residents crying over a list of missing children, along with their ages, pinned to a family welfare center. President Juan Manuel Santos declared a state of emergency in the region and flew in to oversee the rescue effort.
Y me acaban de reportar que vamos en 112 personas fallecidas. No sabemos cuántas van a ser, seguimos buscando, y lo primero que quiero decir es que mi corazón, nuestros corazones y los corazones de todos los colombianos están con las víctimas de esta tragedia.
For the survivors, despair begins to grow with each passing hour as hope of finding their loved ones dims and grief sets in.
Even in a country where heavy rains, a mountainous landscape and informal construction of homes combine to make mud and landslides a common occurrence, the scale of the disaster is daunting compared to recent tragedies like a 2015 landslide that killed nearly 80 people in Sarga, Antioquia. Colombia's deadliest landslide, the 1985 Armero disaster, left more than 20,000 dead. Taking a look at our local stories this evening, the National Convention of the SLFP Youth Front was held today. President Maithripala Sirisena graced the occasion as the chief guest.
This is the first national convention of the SLFP Youth Front to be held in 13 years, with the previous occasion being in 1994. The event was organized under the theme Visandumata Jayak. President Sirisena officially launched the website of the SLFP Youth Front at the event.
විශ්වාස කරන බොහෝ විට
I believe that we will be able to hold the local government elections this year. I call on all the youth gathered here today, instead of working to make another candidate victorious, come forward as candidates yourselves and take leadership. Prepare the path for future victories of the party. I invite you to do so. I must say to you clearly that in the near future we will be able to form a government. You must take custody of the party. My son is seated in the front row in this hall. He is not on stage. He has not been given any positions in the youth organizations. I have not formed any balakayas for him. I did not accept the chairmanship of this party to crown anyone in my family. I did so to strengthen the future journey of the entirety of the youth of this country and the citizenry. This I must say to you very clearly.
Health Minister Rajitha Senaratne opened the new kidney disease unit and blood bank at the Vavuniya District General Hospital today.
Dignitaries, including members of the Northern Provincial Council and the Governor of the province, Reginald Kure, graced the occasion. Following the event, journalists questioned Minister Senaratne on a possible cabinet reshuffle. As ministers, we must be prepared to work in any ministry entrusted to us. I have been working in this position. I have acquired lands. I have undertaken construction. I did the same as the Fisheries Minister and now as Health Minister. No matter the position, we must work correctly. The minister was also questioned on parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa's hunger strike. There is nothing that can be done. It was a decision of the court. When the court issues a decision, we must all bow to it. Yesterday, the President of Korea was arrested. How come she hadn't launched a hunger strike?
The Sri Lanka Navy has apprehended 6 Indian nationals who attempted to smuggle 13.5 kilograms of heroin into the country. Acting on a tip-off, the Navy accosted the 6 Indian nationals off the northern coast of the island early this morning. The Navy also seized 13.5 kilograms of brown sugar, a variant of heroin that was in the vessel used by the suspects. Authorities said the haul of drugs found in the vessel has a value of 162 million rupees. Navy media spokesperson Lieutenant Commander Chaminda Valakulage said the vessel had entered Sri Lankan waters disguised as a fishing boat.
While on patrol, the vessel Ranavikrama had noticed a boat that was moving in a very suspicious manner and they boarded the vessel. There were no nets or any other fishing equipment on board. They were not fishing. Upon further inspection, 2 parcels and a can were discovered. The substance inside was identified as a variant of heroin. The boat was seized and was brought to the KKS harbour. Last week too, the Navy seized about 1.5 kilograms of heroin that was being smuggled into the country.
The haul of drugs and the 6 Indian nationals have been handed over to the Kankasanture police. The Navy also noted that Indian fishermen enter Sri Lankan waters in large numbers on Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. Since 2015, the Navy has seized a total of 1,600 kilograms of Kerala ganja, a potent variant of marijuana which Indian nationals have attempted to smuggle into Sri Lanka. Law enforcement authorities have identified the motorist responsible for a fatal hit-and-run collision in the early hours of the 26th of February at the Vijayarama Junction in Horton Place in Colombo 7. The suspect was taken into custody yesterday and produced in court today, where he was remanded until the 4th of April.
Police say that the suspect, who was driving a luxury car worth in excess of 10 million rupees, had run over a beggar at about 5:30 a.m. on the morning of the 26th of February. The victim died at the scene of the collision. Using footage from CCTV cameras on either side of the road, the police had uncovered that the suspect was a resident of Horton Place. The police had initially investigated 130 vehicles before shortlisting 7 possible suspects, of whom 6 were ruled out. The suspect was produced in court today on charges of failing to prevent an accident, failing to report an accident, and failing to take the injured to a hospital. The diligence of the officers of the Cinnamon Gardens Police Traffic Division to ensure justice for a beggar with no legal guardian is to be admired and appreciated.
Education Minister Akhilaviraj Karyavasam appeared indifferent today when questioned by journalists on the possibility of being given greater responsibility within the UNP.
The minister laid the foundation stones today for 2 tunnels being constructed in the Kuliyapite town near the Kuliyapite hospital and main bus stop.
ඇමතුමා සතුටායන ආරංචියක් ලැබුණා මේ පක්ෂේ මහලේකම් තනතුරක් ලැබෙන්න යනවා කියලා මම නම් දන්නේ බලමු ඉස්සරහ.
The Ceylon Teachers Service Union convened a media briefing today to raise awareness on alleged attempts to privatize and defund education.
Our education minister is going around opening smart classrooms and gifting tabs, but many schools have dilapidated roofs. They haven't taken any steps to renovate the roofs. Every year, the allocation for education is reduced. We know that this year, the allocation for general education was reduced by 109 billion, while the allocation for higher education was reduced by 10 billion. As a result of this, school buildings are not being refurbished. The children's classrooms are not being refurbished. The ceilings are collapsing, and it is not anyone at the school that is accountable for this. It is the education authorities that are accountable.
Tonight on our investigative journalism segment Action TV, our focus is on higher education, specifically the education of the nation's teachers.
Among the most significant contributions made by the current Prime Minister during his tenure as the Education Minister was the introduction of a proper mechanism to train teachers through the Colleges of Education Act of 1986. 19 colleges of education established under this act are currently in operation across the country. Apart from the recruitment of diploma holders from these colleges, there are 2 other procedures by which to recruit teachers to the public sector. One such procedure is the holding of competitive examinations by provincial councils to recruit graduates as teachers. The second is the recruitment of students who have passed the advanced level examinations as teaching assistants by the Ministry of Education, who are later integrated into the teachers' service via the colleges of education. While a mechanism to recruit teachers already exists, notices placed in today's newspapers revealed information on a national program jointly embarked upon by the Ministry of Higher Education and the Ministry of Education. Under the label of ending the shortage of teachers in remote areas, what the government is actually attempting here is to confer the responsibility of educating future teachers to non-state universities. The notice states that those willing to follow degree programs at these non-state universities will be entitled to a financial facility from the government amounting to 800,000 rupees. Through this program, what the government is attempting to do is to push into non-state universities students who pass their A-level examinations but are unable to gain admission to state universities. One cannot neglect the fact that this program serves to promote non-state universities. According to the notice, teaching service appointments will be presented to graduates who complete their degree program in 2020 and 2021. It is evident then that the colleges of education, which for 30 years have been the primary instrument for training teachers for the nation, are being neglected further. Gaining admission to the colleges of education has been one of the primary alternatives thus far for students who do not secure the necessary Z score to enter state universities. While the colleges of education are the only institutions empowered by the relevant Act of 1986 to confer teaching degrees that are accepted by the Ministry of Education over the past 30 years, no steps have been taken to implement this provision. The solution the government has apparently reached to address the neglect of the past 30 years is to confer the education of the country to non-state universities and make money the decisive factor.
Thus far, it has been the colleges of education that have been responsible for training teachers of this country. Today, the colleges of education and the Ministry of Education has been cast aside, and the Ministry of Higher Education is publishing notices on this subject. This is a serious turning point. We call on the government to immediately rescind this decision.
When the country already has a mechanism to train and recruit teachers, and when the shortage of teachers can be addressed by conferring appointments based on research, who were the intellectuals that recommended that the education of teachers should be a non-state affair? Secretary to the President, over to you.
The closing ceremony of the Younpuriya 2017 youth camp in Trincomalee was held yesterday.
President Maithripala Sirisena was the chief guest at the closing ceremony, which also saw the participation of dignitaries including Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and opposition leader R. Sambandhan.
It is necessary to invest in the knowledge, energy and strength of the youth at the correct place at the correct time to secure the future of a country. At present, the problem of unemployed graduates is not restricted to the north and east of the country. Over the past 2 to 3 years, the queue of unemployed graduates has grown. We have decided, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet and I, to consider the problem of unemployed graduates as an island-wide problem and not only a problem in the north and east, in order to resolve this by the end of this year. We will immediately implement plans to utilize the resources of youth through a national program involving all public and private sector institutions to secure the future of the youth, to strengthen the economy, to increase manufacturing and to develop what foreign markets are seeking.
විදේශ වෙළඳපොළට අවශ්‍ය දේ දෙන්න ඒ සඳහා මේ තරුණ සම්පත භාවිතා කිරීමේ සැලසුම් අපි වහහා ඉටු කිරීමේ අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තිබෙනවා. ඔබ තමයි අපේ අනාගතය. ඔබ තමයි අපේ විශ්වාසය.
You are our future. You are our faith. This is the first time that young leaders are gathering under the Yaunpura banner in the northeast. This is the first time that we are gathering in the electorate of the leader of the TNA. He invited us here and gave us his support. This shows us the extent of reconciliation in the country today. I will tell you now that under President Maithripala Sirisena, there will be even greater development to give you the future that you want. During the war, it was young lives that were lost. It was the youth that joined the armed forces and laid down their lives. Even for the terrorists, it was the youth that were made to take up arms and die. If we can utilize the power of the youth for development, we can bring progress similar to Malaysia to this country. Unfortunately, this has not happened. The rulers who brought the war to an end proceeded to consider the minorities, especially the Tamil people, as living as slaves and did not take any steps to reach a sustainable solution to the problem. The Tamil people lived as slaves in this country. Although those rulers may have thought that way, there was a change in the administration in the country and a new president and new prime minister have come together to take the country on a new journey.
As the pundits and energy sector experts continue to warn of an energy crisis in Sri Lanka, the AntiCorruption Front today expressed its opposition to the CEB's plan to construct a combined cycle power plant in Kervalapitiya at a cost of 7 billion rupees. The AntiCorruption Front issued a statement on the issue today bearing the signature of Kirti Tennakon, an advisor to the organisation. The Anti-Corruption Front points out that the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Dr. Suren Batakuda, had issued instructions for a project involving the construction of a 30 kilowatts diesel power plant, which will be converted to a biogas power plant in 3 years. The statement reads that after the Yahapalana government was elected, 6 companies came forward to invest in the biogas power plant sector, and that following meeting held under the patronage of the President, the companies had agreed to meet the energy demands of the country within 3 months. The Anti-Corruption Front accused the Ministry of Secretary, Dr. Suren Batakuda, of steering a CEB mafia and consigning these proposals to the rubbish bin. Highlighting the fact that the Board of Investment Chairman, Attorney at Law, Upul Jayasuriya, had agreed to commence construction on the biogas power plants in Hambantota, Kervalapitiya, Sitavaka, Vegama and the Katunayaka within 6 months, the Anti-Corruption Front says the forces that are attempting to prevent these projects must be revealed to the nation. Newsfirst made inquiries from the Power and Renewable Energy Ministry Secretary Dr. Suren Batakuda.
Combined cycle power plant natural gas
This is going to be a dual fuel combined cycle power plant. It can run on natural gas. Since there is no natural gas in Sri Lanka at present, we hope to use diesel or furnace oil for the first 2 years. There is no other alternative, as so far Sri Lanka does not have the capacity to use natural gas. Now that the number of power plants has increased, there is enough demand to build a biogas plant. There are various views among the public, but this is the alternative we have to provide for the energy demand.
Addressing an event in Matakulia today, Minister Manu Ganeshan expressed these views.
If everyone who is in prison begins a fast in order to obtain bail, then we won't need a court in the country anymore. There is no need for a government. If you want to free someone who fasted, then free those Tamil prisoners who have been without bail for periods between 5 to 25 years.
A public rally was held at the SDS Jayasinghe Stadium in Dehivali yesterday under the auspices of former President Parliamentarian Mahinda Rajapaksa.
They asked whether the government can be toppled this year. If it can be, we will topple it. If we cannot do it, we will do it the next year. It will take 2 moons. Only 2 moons. The election must be held by the time the Vesak Poya comes around.
Then make him
2 years have lapsed and they are on their third year now. We do not even realize that time is passing. I think this government will leave as soon as it came in. It is like the spinning ball. I do not know if Chandrika is turning it since she is skilled at winding clocks too. We are hoping to isolate Ranil's power in Parliament, to push him up against the wall and form a parliamentary force. The public will that is burning on the streets will carry the country to a change in government, and we will have the courage to do it. Consider the great theft at the central bank. The central bank is under the purview of the Prime Minister. Both the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister placed their signatures. They are putting on a false show and are heading towards their goal. We will break this chain at the link, where it needs to be broken.
Also in local news, the 23rd Nagamani, constructed by the Ministry of Housing and Construction, was declared open in the Tirapani area in Anuradhapura today.
This project, which is named Pratibhagama, consists of 25 houses and was built at a cost of 28.1 million rupees. Minister Sajith Premadasa also presented financial aid as well as housing loans for families that have been affected by chronic kidney disease. Minister P. Harrison and a number of other parliamentarians were also present at the occasion. The former president had said that this government has committed the greatest betrayal in the country's history. It was his government that committed the greatest betrayal. 2 weeks after our war heroes achieved victory on the 18th of May 2009, who betrayed the country? Was it Yahapalane or Ascharya? The second betrayal was the repealing of the 17th Amendment, which was used to set up independent commissions, and the setting up of the 18th Amendment, which was brought in to consolidate power into one family. The third greatest betrayal was obtaining loans at extremely high interest rates and placing this burden on your heads.
Speaking at an Aurudu celebration held in Petiago de Calania today, Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca had this to say.
We are aware of the political situation that prevailed in Calania, not only in Calania, but across the entire nation. Your conscience is aware of it, and we need not remind you of it. Even when people smiled when they met each other, they were living in an environment of intimidation and oppression, in fear of politicians. This situation has changed. We will commit ourselves over the next 2 to 3 years to build an environment that is suitable to live freely, an environment which is suitable for the children's education.
Passengers travelling through the Bandaranaike International Airport charged that there are issues with regard to the checking process adopted for passenger luggage.
One particular passenger took to social media to voice his concerns regarding the alleged actions of airport security officials. As a chairman of the SLNSS of the airport and aviation services, we totally reject the claim from our side because the baggage loading and unloading is being handled by Sri Lankan Airlines. Employees recruited from various manpower agencies are also employed on these conveyor lines. The passengers don't see the bags till they disembark. Sometimes damage caused in India could be first noticed in Sri Lanka. There is a unit that has been set up to monitor such complaints. We inquired into the matter from the duty manager at the Bandaranaike International Airport. He noted that such incidents have been reported on a number of occasions. He stated that baggage handling is a responsibility that is vested with Sri Lankan Airlines. When inquired, the media officer of Sri Lankan Airlines, Deepal Pereira, noted that they are yet to receive any such complaint from a passenger.
Moving on to sports news now, Nimali Lianarachi and Manjula Kumara have won gold for Sri Lanka at the 2017 Philippine National Open Invitational Athletics Championships. Meanwhile, on the cricket field, Colombo District emerged champions in the Inter-District One-Day Cricket Tournament. With these stories and more, up next is Sports Roundup.
Sri Lanka's national high jump champion won gold in the men's event at the Philippine National Open Invitational Athletics Championship, clearing a height of 2.13 meters. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's women's 800 meters national record holder Nimali Lianarachi won her second gold of the tournament with a time of 55.21 seconds in the women's 400 meters. Colombo district won the finals of the inter-district one-day cricket tournament today, defeating Kegol by 72 runs. Batting first, Colombo amassed 295 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in their 50 overs. In response, Kegol struggled to 223 before losing their last wicket in the 48th over.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.